Middle East Report with James Dorsey on Sabahul Muslim.
James, good morning. Welcome.
Good morning. Pleasure to be with you in Ramadan Mubarak.
Thank you so much. Ceasefire negotiations stall as the genocide in Gaza enters its 6th month.
Indeed. So essentially the fundamental difference is the purpose of the ceasefire. With other words, Hamas wants the ceasefire to be a permanent ceasefire and an end to the war. Israel wants it to be temporary for a period of up to 6 weeks, and then the war would resume. Essentially, in many ways, what Israel and what particularly Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu wants is to prolong the war as long as possible, not only because of his personal and political interests, but also because at the end of the day, Israel has not succeeded in its war goals, primarily destroying Hamas and liberating the Hamas-held hostages. And in some ways, the United States, and particularly U.S. President Joe Biden, if you look at his State of the Union speech in recent hours, is giving Israel some time by, on the one hand, pressuring it on the issue of humanitarian aid, but providing as a solution a pier that would allow a maritime supply of humanitarian aid into Gaza, but that's going to take weeks to construct.
Now, South Africa, in the meanwhile, has urged the International Court of Justice to adopt additional measures to prevent starvation in Gaza.
Indeed. So if you recall, going back to the last month's hearings of the International Court of Justice, a week-long of hearings, South Africa had requested a list of immediate measures. The court adopted some of those and did not adopt others. And what South Africa is now doing is saying, given the seriousness of the crisis in Gaza and the continuous worsening of the situation, those measures that were not adopted by the court should now be adopted.
Israel is its own worst enemy. Allowing humanitarian aid into Gaza would take much of the sting out of the criticism, but that would also mean the demise of Netanyahu's coalition.
Indeed. So if you look at commentary, both official and civil society, it's really focused on Israel's blocking of the flow of humanitarian aid into Gaza. And if Israel were to get in front of the cart instead of behind the cart and open up crossing points, allow trucks to go in, a lot of that, the sting of that criticism would be taken out. That's not to say that then suddenly many would justify the Israeli assault or the way Israel conducts the war. But nonetheless, a lot of the sharp edges would disappear. The problem is, of course, that Prime Minister Netanyahu heads a far-right, ultra-religious, ultra-nationalist coalition that does not want to see aid flowing into Gaza. It actually wants to see Gazans, innocent Gazans, suffer and hopefully then leave Gaza. And therefore, if Netanyahu were to open up the flow, he could see his government dissolve.
Well, talking about Netanyahu, he may be the only Middle Eastern leader rooting for Trump rather than Biden in the U.S. presidential elections.
Absolutely. So Biden today, despite for his troubled relationship with Mohammed bin Salman at the outset of his presidency, is today the figure that's going to offer Middle Eastern autocrats what they are looking for. Trump is not going to do that. On the other hand, I think we're seeing slowly a confrontation evolving between Israel and the Biden administration. Personal relationships between Biden and Netanyahu are poor. They don't like each other. And increasingly, Biden is really frustrated with Netanyahu. But on the other hand, Trump and Biden were very close, even though Trump has criticized Netanyahu publicly and did Netanyahu's bidding, for example, with recognition of Jerusalem as the capital of Israel, or Trump's endorsement of the annexation of the Golan Heights, which were captured by Israel from Syria in the 1967 war. So as a result, indeed, Netanyahu may be the only Middle Eastern leader who sees virtue in a Trump electoral victory, should it happen.
All right, James, thank you so much for your time as always. Really appreciate it.
It's always a pleasure. Thank you for having me.
JamesMDorsey.net is the website if you want to check out James's articles. 3 minutes to 8.